Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Anya Porter, and this is a class that will lead us toward handstand, but more importantly than the shape or the goal of handstand, the process of getting there. I want to start by allowing the space for and encouraging you as a practitioner to find your own voice, meaning the voice of your body. And the way that you do that is by slowing down sometimes and listening. So there are many ways to move, many ways to enjoy and celebrate movement in the body. And sometimes that means to move quickly and with rhythm, like dance, with playfulness, like sports or other things where there's a lot of play underlining the movement. Sometimes with a lot of meticulous attention, which we often do in an alignment-based class. And then there's a different kind of attention that is explored in something like somatics, where you're going really deeply into your felt experience and noticing what is the lived experience in my body, not what am I telling it to do, what is it expressing to me? And all of these things are important, and they all, if we incorporate them all into our work, there can be some real profound witnessing of this voice within us. And also sometimes the ways that we can try to tamper that voice down, or in subtle ways get aggressive with ourselves, sometimes not so subtle. So I encourage you to begin from that place of allowing space to listen. And of course, you're in a class, you want to perhaps incorporate the instruction I'm giving, to try to emulate what I'm doing. All of those things are really important too. But the underlying ground is that your experience is the most important. So I begin with that. And I want to share something from the Yoga Sutras that I think points to this kind of relationship that we want to build with ourselves through this practice. So the Yoga Sutras start off by saying, now begins yoga. That's the first sutra. And then it begins to espouse what yoga is. What is yoga? And one of the first things it says is that yoga is a stilling or a quieting of the fluctuations or the movements of the mind. And why would we do this? Why would we want to slow down and pay attention? And so the answer is then found in the next sutra, which is 1.3, the third sutra. Because when we slow down, we actually can witness ourselves as we really are. We can see all of ourself, the whole of the self, not just the self that we put forth to our colleagues or put forth to our family or put forth to our neighbors or put forth online, right? When we slow down, we pay attention, we begin to see all of it. Sometimes it's not so nice, but the beauty is that it's all welcome. And that's true in our body too, not just our mind. Like, this is definitely about how we pay attention to how our mind works and how we behave, how we act from our mind's fluctuations, from its movements. But it's also in the body. And that's where the asana, the physical work, really becomes so powerful, because it is a reflection, oftentimes, of what's happening in our mind. So I encourage you to start from that place. Allow yourself to slow down sometimes. Allow yourself to listen. Allow yourself to be with your experience. And because this is recorded, you get to stop, you get to fast forward, You get to rewind, you get to replay. So if you don't want to hear something that I have to say, then you can fast forward it. And if you want to hear something that I had to say again, you can rewind it, or you can pause it and just take in the instruction and let yourself feel that. That's so powerful, and it's something that we don't necessarily get to do in a physical class when you've got a lot of people around and you're just trying to keep up. So I encourage you to do that too. Okay, I'm going to start with 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3. If you don't have 3 blocks, you could do this on the floor. The blocks are giving really specific feedback to the back body, so that's where we'll start with that. If you don't have 3 blocks, you could do a block, 2 blocks and a rolled blanket for the last block under the pelvis, but I'm going to keep my 3 blocks so you can really see what that's doing for me. Okay, I'm going to sit down on my block, and I get my pelvis on there, and I'm going to lay back so that the second block is under my bottom ribs, and the third block is under my head. Okay. Now I invite you to pause and feel, to really feel what is going on in my back body. And take that awareness down into the pelvis first. So feel, is your left side of your pelvis or your right side of your pelvis touching the block more? Is one side more weighted? Same thing with your rib cage. If you take your arms up, you might have a different sense of that too. Okay, so notice when the arms are wide, what you feel in the back, and what happens when the arms go up. Okay, all of these little things, start to pay attention to the little things. Notice in your rib cage, is one side more weighted, right or left? Notice in your head, is one side more weighted, right or left? Can you start to make them feel more even? And how would you do that? So if your pelvis feels like the left buttock is heavier, can you turn it slightly from the inside so the right side is even with the left? Same with the ribs, same with the head. Find that space for yourself of balance. Attempt it. There's no perfection here. We're just seeking a sense of neutral. And neutral is always changing, so let yourself be fluid with it. Okay, now, here we start to feel a clear action. Already we've been working with feeling, and now we're going to move into doing. So I'm going to ask you to move your bottom ribs down into the block. And you'll feel as you weight the bottom ribs, something will happen also to your skull. When you weight your bottom ribs into the block, or the floor if you don't have blocks, feel what happens to your skull. Your skull will naturally tilt back toward the back of the skull. Keep that. Keep the bottom ribs going down. Let your palms face forward and bring your shoulder blades in toward your spine and away from your ears, and then begin to move your arms overhead, reaching back. You'll notice if you keep your shoulders away from your ears and you keep your rib cage moving down at the bottom, you'll hit a hard stop. Okay, just try that one more time. Rib cage moving down, arms reaching overhead. You'll hit a hard stop, pretty much. And then if you let your shoulders lift toward your ears, you can feel that your arms can go down further toward the floor, but keep those bottom ribs pressing down, okay? And do that one more time. Start with your shoulder blades away from your ears and in toward your spine. Press the bottom of your rib cage down into the block, and then move your arms overhead until you hit the first hard stop. Then let your shoulders rise towards your ears and keep going back and down with your arms, but don't lose the connection of your back bottom ribs into the block. You should feel your abdominals working quite a lot. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, we add into the legs. So again, see if you can find a relatively neutral pelvis. And then just notice when you lift one leg and then the other, if you take your fingertips to your ASIS, to your hip points at the front, can you feel how your pelvis turns from side to side? Okay. So what we also may deduce in this case is that when our pelvis is tilting one direction, we might notice that that leg is more internally rotated. And you might also notice that that leg is more flexed at the knee. Just something to consider. Okay. Bring both knees up into your palms and pause. And again, try to find this balance in the pelvis. Lift your legs up so the knees are maybe a little wider than 90 degrees, and reach your arms back up and press your bottom rib cage into the block. Keep that. Begin to slowly move your toes of right foot down toward the floor, tap and come back up. Keep the pelvis as level as possible as you go from side to side. Try not to let your pelvis turn too much. Try not to let the pelvis turn. Take one more on each side. Keep those bottom ribs pressing down. And then hold your kneecaps and pause. Full deep breath in, full deep breath out. Okay, let's do the arms and legs together. So reach the arms up, shoulder blades in toward the spine and down away from the ears. Reach your arms back, lift your legs, and then you can choose. So the further back your arms go and down, the more load that's going to put into your abdominals, the more work that's going to be. And the further up your arms are, the less. So you can choose. Again, you're in charge. And how you carry forward is really about also how you listen to your body, how your body communicates back to you. Okay? Challenging yourself is really, really good, but also doing that without adding that extra layer of aggression is excellent. So, taking good care of yourself, reach your arms back any amount, and then slowly keep your bottom ribs tapping into that block. Tap one foot down and come back up. Tap the other foot down and come back up. Keep those bottom ribs pressing into the block. Tap and lift. Tap and lift. Tap and lift. Tap and lift. One more time each side. Tap and lift. Tap and lift. Okay, you should definitely feel the front of your body waking up. Go ahead and press your feet into the floor. Lift your pelvis off of the block. Set your pelvis onto the floor. Then take the block under your head and lift your head up one facet. Pause. Breathe wide across your rib cage. Okay, after your next exhalation, you might choose to scoot down a little further so that that second block under the rib cage is really up under the shoulder blades. And you've got the kidneys down off of that block completely. So that back bottom rib area is now off the block. Take your hands to hold the block under your head again and lift your head up holding the block. Hug your elbows in. And then a few times you're just going to go up and down here. Lifting your head up and down. And then go ahead and lift your head all the way up. Set that block aside. And then we're just let your hand and arm come to one side, knees to that side, and come all the way up. Okay, so I'm going to actually grab two of my blocks and come toward hands and knees. So a lot of our class today will be working in the sagittal plane. So there are 3 planes of movement. One is sagittal plane, which is anytime, like if your head nods yes, if your rib cage and spine back bend and round like cow and cat, if your pelvis tilts forward and back, okay, stepping forward is in the sagittal plane. So this plane, if you think of it, if you look at someone from the side, S sagittal, S side, if you look at them from the side, every movement you see going forward and back is in the sagittal plane. So we're going to work a lot with that today. But first, before we get deeply into the sagittal, I'm going to ask you to play with some other planes. We're going to use our blocks to find that. So the first block I'm going to set under my left hand. The second block, when I'm at my hands and knees, and I want to make sure my shoulder is over my wrist and my hips are over my knees, and like cow-cat or setting up for tabletop. And so now I've got my right knee on the block, and I've got my left hand on the block, and the other 2 limbs are down on the floor. Now, if any of this bothers your lower back, take the block away under the knee and just set that aside. First, let's just try a really slow dive into cow and cat. And you might notice this feels unusual. So effectively what this is doing is it's turning your pelvis and your ribs in 2 different directions. It's spinning them. This is in the transverse plane. So the transverse plane is twisting. Anything that twists. So if you look down, like if you were standing on a balcony, looking down at someone from the very top, and you could see that their shoulders turn from side to side and their hips, and they turn their head from side to side, but you can't really see anything else. That's the transverse plane. Okay. All right, so now lift your right hand off the floor, reach your right arm to the ceiling, and as you exhale, scoot the right hand underneath and over to the left. And do that again. Inhale, open. Exhale, sweep through. Inhale, open. And you might notice you don't have a lot of room to turn, and that's okay. Just go where you can. Don't force it. Inhale and exhale. Okay? Then take your hand to the floor. Find neutral on the blocks. Now move your weight into your right knee that's on the block. Lift your left knee, and a few times you're just going to lift and lower the knee up and down. So we're just picking up and lowering. And then we're going to try to lift the left knee up to the ceiling, but instead of letting your right seat, your right butt move out to the right, hug the right buttock into the midline and lift the left knee up. And then just go up and down a few times, like that. So working the pelvis, essentially moving over that right femur head, right leg bone, and then go ahead and place the left knee down. Okay, we're going to switch sides. Flip your block under your hand to the other side. Come off the knee and flip that to the other side. And then again, come down with your hands under your shoulders to the best of your ability and your knees under your hips. Okay. Start with lifting your left arm up and threading under. Excuse me, I forgot our cow and cat. Let's do that first. My bad. Extend through the spine, find your back bend, and round through your spine. So we're trying to move into the sagittal plane, but the transverse plane is interrupting that. in a way. So go really slowly and pay attention to if your tailbone and your head can stay in the same line along the midline, and if not, which way do they go? Okay. Good, and then find neutral spine. Now we're gonna open. Lift the left arm up to the ceiling and then thread it underneath. And you could bend your elbow, but I'm gonna keep mine straight because it's gonna keep me really honest about how much rotation I have in my thoracic spine up there. It's less than I might think. Take one more time. Inhale, lift, press through that bottom hand and twist. And then find your hand under your shoulder. Now move your weight into your left knee on the block. Lift your right knee, and we're just going to pick up the knee and lower it a few times. Pick it up and lower. And again, listen to your body. If you feel like this is a lot for your lower back and sacrum, then you just take the block away or you back off of the movement. Okay, one more time. Now we're going to lift that all the way up to the ceiling. Hug your outer left hip in. And then bring that right knee back down. And then again, lift that up. I'm going to do that 4 times. And come back down. And lift it up. And come back down. One more time, lift it up. And come back down. And then place the knee to the floor. Set your blocks aside for a moment. Come to your hands and your knees. Pause and feel. Neutral spine, relatively neutral, at least compared to where we were. So go ahead and give yourself a few more cycles of cow and cat, letting your spine round from the base of the neck to the tailbone, and the head can really do what it wants. I like to keep my gaze really steady when I'm doing cow and cat. But you could let your head move with your spine. And then on your next exhalation, extend your arms forward and take a child's pose. Deepen your breath. Wide open breath. Okay. Cool. So let's do one more thing that we'll bring into our sequence. We're going to do a little flow here in a minute. And we want to keep in mind this relationship of the bottom rib cage. So maybe it's helpful if you actually take one hand to the front of your diaphragm. So if you trace your fingers up your ribs and find here, there's the solar plexus, that sort of soft, tender space there. And then right there is the bottom of the diaphragm. And then if you trace those ribs back, they go down quite low, but we don't want to go to the bottom of them. We just go just above that, basically just behind the hand that's in front. And feel that space. See what it feels like to send your ribs to open in the front. So that means move the bottom ribs forward into the front hand. And then see what it feels like to move the bottom ribs back. And it's not going to be a huge movement, so you don't have to make it huge or look for something huge, but feel what is it to move the bottom ribs back into the hand? Like what has to happen in my body, and particularly in the abdominals, for me to find that space. And you might feel the abdominals have to turn on. They have to wake up and engage, okay? All right, so let's use that here in chaturanga. I'm going to do modified chaturanga. I invite you to do modified for now until you really know for sure that you're keeping that kidney band or the back of the diaphragm, the space we were just in, to keep that really full. So my knees are down and back. So it's not hands and knees. It's longer than that. So I walk my knees back and I feel that from the top of my head to my knees, I'm in a straight line. And I want to feel that bottom of my rib cage lifting up into my back body. I'm going to keep that as I go forward and down into my modified chaturanga, and I'm going to keep it and lead from it actually as I come back up. And do that one more time. Okay, if you want to try it with your knees off the ground, you can. It's a lot more challenging to keep the kidney band full, but I'm going to do this one more time with you, and I invite you to keep your knees down. There's no point in taking yourself to a place where you can't maintain the integrity of what you do. Okay, even for me, that's I almost start to lose it there. So let's try it one more time, with or without your knees. So as you shift forward, I'll keep my knees down initially. I'm going to really lift my rib cage, fill my back body, lift my bottom ribs, and then keep that as I lift my knees and lower. Keep it and lead from it as I push back up. Lower the knees down, sit back in child's pose. If that was really challenging for you, please, by all means, keep your knees down. When you take your chaturanga, you'll get so much more out of it for this particular class, for this exercise today. If you allow yourself the space and the time to have the true experience. Take another inhalation in your down dog, another exhale, step or hop your feet forward to your hands, and then fold into your legs. Feel free to bend your knees. You can take a little sways in your hips. And to release your neck, I'm keeping my head slightly away from my chest because the mic is there and things can get either really loud or muffled, but you let your head go. You can bounce a little bit. And then on your next exhale, drop your tailbone. Slowly roll up through your spine. Pause. About halfway up, take your hands to your thighs and use your hands against your thighs to really feel the bottom of your rib cage lifting back into the back space of your body. Let your tailbone drop down. And then continue on your way up. And find yourself standing in Tadasana with your feet right underneath your sitting bones, right underneath your hip points. Take a moment to pause and feel. To pause and feel down into the pressure, the soles of your feet, how your feet are relating to the earth. To allow yourself the space to have your own experience. So even before you make a correction, what happens if you feel what is there, what is really there, before you make a correction? Rather than just taking on instruction blindly, can we actually listen to what the truth of our experience is before we start to gloss it over with what we should do? So feel your feet on the earth. Okay, go ahead and take your hands, interlace them, take the right thumb and pointer finger on top, take the hands behind the head and widen the elbows. And as you exhale, bring your elbows toward the front space. So it's like you're in a headstand. And then let your shoulders rise to your ears. And as you let your shoulders rise to your ears, draw your bottom ribs back. And find a softness in your throat. Draw your bottom ribs back. And then press your heels down into the floor. Feel your tailbone follow your heels. Take another inhale. And then as you exhale, let your elbows open, let your chest go forward, let your ribs spill out, let your belly even spill out. Let yourself back bend on the way down, and then release your hands, interlace your fingers behind your back, and take your knuckles to your sacrum. Let your shoulders roll forward. Take an inhale, lift your shoulders, lift your chest, lift your gaze, send your chest forward. Take an exhale and fold.
Take another inhale, sweep your arms forward, move your weight into your right foot. Your torso is parallel with the floor or so, and step your left foot back into a lunge. On your inhale, lower your back knee, lift your arms. As you exhale, reach them forward. Now, can you keep the fullness in your back bottom ribs as you bend your back knee and lift your arms? And keep the fullness in your back as you reach your arms forward. Do that one more time. Bend. Now keep the fullness in the back of the body. Keep your torso upright and straighten your back leg, and hopefully you get a nice sense of length on the front of your left hip, left quad, maybe even up into the left side of the belly. Okay, take another inhale, let your shoulders rise toward your ears. And then as you exhale, take your hands to the floor, down dog split, reach your right leg back and up, keep your hips square. Take a full inhalation. And then as you exhale, bring your right knee forward to your nose. Do that one more time. Inhale, reach your right leg back, hips square. Exhale your right knee forward to your nose. Keep your shoulders directly over your wrists. The only thing moves back is your right leg. Find plank pose. Here I'm going to lower my knees. You can keep them up if you like. Inhale, and as you exhale, lower halfway down, chaturanga. Keep the kidney band full, and then lead from the back of the kidneys to come back up to straight arms and back into down dog. Take a full inhalation, full exhalation. Repeat that. And then on your next inhalation, step or hop your feet forward to your hands. Extend through your spine and fold down into your legs. Feet under the sitting bones, drop your tailbone, roll up through your spine, pause with your hands on your thighs, and really allow that pressing down to drop the tailbone and fill the back body, and then continue on your way up. We'll take it from the second side. Take the left thumb and first finger on top. As you interlace your fingers, take them behind your skull. Move your elbows forward and move them up. Let the shoulders rise toward the ears. And then as you press your heels down, draw your bottom ribs back. Fill your back body. Take an inhale here, and then as you exhale, start to let the elbows open. Let your chest go forward. Let the whole front of your body open. And then release your hands and interlace the fingers the opposite way behind your back, so they rest on your sacrum. Let your shoulders drip toward the floor. Take an inhale, come halfway up. Reach the knuckles back, chest forward. Take an exhale, let your shoulders drape down. Inhale one more time. Reach your chest forward. Reach your arms forward. Move your weight into your left foot. Lift your right foot and step back to lunge. Lower your back knee. Reach your arms up. Keep the fullness in the back of your bottom ribs and tilt forward through your torso as you straighten your back leg. Bend your back knee, reach your arms up. Torso forward, back leg straight. One more time, the back knee bends, the torso lifts, the arms up. Full in the kidneys, full in the back of the diaphragm as you straighten your back leg. And then let your shoulders rise up toward your ears. And take your hands down to the floor, down dog split. Take an inhalation here. Hips are square. Take an exhalation, knee to nose. And again, left leg back and up, hips are square. Exhalation, knee to nose. Keep your shoulders right over your wrists and just move your left leg back to plank pose. Pause. Keep your knees up or lower them and go halfway down. Coming back up to straight arms from the kidneys lifting, and then back into down dog. Full breath in, full breath out. We're going to repeat that one more time. Bend your knees, step or hop your feet forward to your hands. Extend through your spine and fold into your legs. Bend your knees, drop your tailbone, roll up, come halfway up, press your hands into your thighs. Widen through the back of your body and then continue up. Drop your tailbone to come all the way up to stand. One more time on the breath. Here we go. Interlace the fingers, take the palms behind the skull, bring the elbows forward, lift the shoulders toward the ears.
Inhale here, drop your tailbone, exhale. Inhale once again, and as you exhale, elbows open, front of the body spills open, forward fold, interlace the fingers behind the back, let the head drop. Inhale, come halfway up, reach your knuckles back, your chest forward. Exhale, fold, and let your shoulders drip down toward the floor. Inhale, send your chest forward. This time, move your weight into your right leg as your arms reach forward. Exhale, step your left foot back to lunge. Bending your back knee, lift your torso. Send your tailbone down. Let your pelvis tilt forward as your back leg straightens and your torso goes forward. Do that one more time. Bend your back knee. Drop your tailbone. Lift your right hip point up. Let your torso come forward. Back leg straightens. This time, coming up, bend your back knee. Lift your torso. Keep your torso full on all sides as you straighten your back leg, finding the stretch on the front of the left hip. Lift your arms up as you inhale, shoulders toward the ears. Exhale, down dog split. Right leg backing up. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, bring your right knee to your nose. Backing up on the down dog split inhalation. Exhale, knee to nose. Stay right here with the shoulders over the wrists. Just the right leg moves to plank. And then as you exhale with your knees up or down, lower, halfway down, coming right back up. Inhalation, down dog on the exhalation. Return to the rhythm of your breath. Take another inhalation and exhale, and then step or jump your feet forward to your hands. Elongate your spine and fold. Bend your knees, drop your tailbone, take your hands to your thighs. Feel the kidneys full. And then continue your way up to come to stand. Interlace the left thumb on top, palms behind the skull. Bring the elbows forward, let the shoulders rise toward the ears. And then drop the tailbone, widen through the back ribs. Take another inhalation here into the fullness of your back body. And then as you exhale, let the front of the body start to open and get full. Back of the body condenses. Interlace the fingers behind you. Take the opposite interlacing. Fold forward, let the shoulders drip down. Inhalation, send your chest forward, the shoulders drawing back. Exhale allows the shoulders to spill forward as your back rounds. One more time, send the chest forward, shoulders back, weight into the left foot as the arms reach forward. Right leg steps back. Back knee bends and the arms lift on the inhale. The pelvis leans forward, carrying the torso with it as the back knee straightens. Once again, bend your back knee, your pelvis tilts up away from your front leg, and then it tilts forward as you come forward. One more time. Bend your back knee, keep your back body full. Think about your torso being full on all sides, but especially the back as you straighten your back leg. Take an inhalation as you exhale. Hands to the floor, down dog split. Inhale here to pause. Exhale, draw your left knee forward to your nose. Backing up to down dog split as you inhale. Exhale, knee to nose. Keep your shoulders right over your wrists. Step your left foot back to plank pose. And then knees up or down, lower, halfway down, full in the kidneys. Coming right back up. This time back to child's pose. And just rest here. I'm going to stack my fists. Take my forehead into my fists. Take any variation of child's pose that feels good to you. And then allow your breath to be as full and wide and long and broad as possible here in your back body. You can think of the breath like brush strokes, like a big wide paintbrush moving across the back of your body from side to side. Okay, we'll meet in a downward facing dog. And then step or hop your feet forward. Okay,
Bring your feet all the way together. Bend your knees, drop your tailbone, and roll yourself up to stand. Okay. So once again, with your feet together, I'm going to face the camera so you can just have a glance at this from the front of my body so you can see what my feet are doing together. Notice the difference in what you feel and how your feet relate to the floor when your feet are together versus when they're underneath your hip points. Just notice how that changes. Notice also if you take your feet like towards your outer hips, what happens if you take your feet that wide? Where does the weight go in your feet? Do you have a sense of it? Take your feet back together. Feel this sharper Tadasana. So it's like the balance becomes more challenging, but also it really highlights where we might be in our body. So if all of our weight is in one foot, it becomes really clear. If we feel like all the weight goes toward our heels or toward the balls of our big toes or anywhere else, we might feel that our pelvis is twisting or rib cage is twisting. This becomes a lot more highlighted when we bring the feet together. So different ways of relating to our body have different capacities to provide the space for us to actually feel our body as it is. Not just what we think it should be. What is it? Where is it? Okay. I'm going to turn to face the front of the mat again. We're going to move into Utkatasana. I'm going to step back a little away from the front of the mat. You might choose to do that too. We're going to go into Bakasana, to crow pose, or at least the prep for that in a moment. So find your chair pose. So bend your knees and reach the arms forward and up. Let's not go too high up with the arms. Just let them be more forward for right now. It's going to let your back be more full. Drop your tailbone. Now, really fill the back space of your body and reach your arms up any amount, but you'll notice that you can't quite get them up much further if you really keep the back full. Take another inhalation, and then as you exhale, bring your palms together, tap your elbows to your knees or inner knees, and then pressing the elbows into the knees, drop your tailbone and round through your spine like cat. Okay, take your fingertips to the floor, widen your knees, and come down to forward fold between the legs. Let the forearms rest, let the head drop. Feel your breath wide into your rib cage. Now, tuck your arms underneath your shins. And here you might just stay and play with putting weight into the forearms, especially if you've got wrist issues. Or you might come up and really tuck those arms underneath the legs like a little bug. And then float forward, lifting from your kidneys. Try to lift from your kidney band. Let that place be the highest point of your pose rather than your derriere. Okay, let your feet come back down. Slip your palms underneath your feet for Padahastasana to allow the wrists to move in the opposite direction. Feel free to shrug the shoulders around, to traction the spine by pulling on the feet from the palms of the hands and letting the shoulders rise and fall there. Okay, slip your hands out from underneath your feet. Pause. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Okay, now we're going to take this into a little sequence. I'm going to put two blocks next to each other. I'm going to back it up away from the front of the mat. So for
for this part, again, you don't have to have the blocks. They provide sort of a guide, like a compass, for the movement that we'll do around them. And they also can provide both a challenge in some cases and sort of a head start. Okay, so I'm going to stand on the blocks with my feet together and take my Utkatasana again on the blocks. So I invite you to do the same. Bring your feet together, bend your knees, sit back, reach your arms forward first, fill the back space, the kidneys, and then reach the arms up any amount without losing that. Take another inhale, and as you exhale, bring your elbows to your knees, your inner knees. Drop your tailbone down, fill the back space of your body. Okay, take another inhale, and as you exhale, bring your palms to the floor and tuck your arms underneath your shins. Now, you have some height under your feet, so it's going to give you a little bit of a head start here. Okay, move your weight into your hands. See if you can just come to your tips of your toes. Maybe that's where you stay today. Maybe you don't lift off. And if you do lift off, lift from your kidneys. Go up from the back bottom ribs, which we've been working so hard to find today. Listen carefully. You're going to step your right foot back onto the blocks. Step, step, step. Fingertips stay down. We're going to find a supported, like standing split with the knee bend. Okay. Take a full breath in. Send your chest forward. Let your leg lift up. Try to find your hips square. And then tap those toes down and let your back round a little bit. Do that one more time. Send your chest forward. Let your pelvis move toward your front leg and your leg lift up as high as you can without lifting the hip. And then tap the toes down. Let the tailbone drop toward the back foot. So we're moving that pelvis in the sagittal plane. And then step the foot back. Take your hands up to the blocks. Pause. Maybe step the left foot back a little further. And then we're going to reach the left arm up, press into the right foot, and come all the way up to stand. Okay? From here, bend your back knee, come to the heel of your front foot, and dig that heel down into the block and pull it backwards as you lean back over your back leg. The back knee can be bent. It could also be straight, but you'll get more allowance for the pelvis to really level itself here if your back knee is bent. Come all the way up, press the foot back onto the block, and then let your right knee bend and take your right arm inside your left knee like a Parsvakonasana. We're just going to go back and forth between those two places. Bending back knee, flexing front foot, reach away from the front leg, and then bend the right knee. Floating Parsvakonasana, the arm is just inside the knee. One more time. Lean back, drag that heel down and back in the front foot, and then bend your right knee and extend the arm overhead. Okay. Now, take your left hand toward the block and then down to the floor on the left side of your mat, like pretty much to the left side. And then listen carefully, we're going to move to side plank. Now, you can use your right hand on the blocks to help you initially to turn both feet to the right, push your right hand into the block, and extend the right leg back. Reach your right arm overhead. Float your right leg over your left, or you can step the right foot in front of you for support. Okay, we're going to step the right leg behind us, step the left foot back, and sit for a moment. Here we go. We're going to lift up into like a one-arm tabletop. So push into your heels, lift up, reach the arm up, feel the kidney bend full. We're going to go back out the way we came in. So step your left leg to side plank. Now listen carefully. We're going to step the right foot onto the block, onto the block, onto the block. And if you don't quite get it there and you get it just behind, you just can lower your back knee, use your right hand to help you pick that foot up onto the block. Okay. Let's pause here. Let your hips come down and forward. See if you can drive your front heel down into the block and drag it backwards. Not only activating the back of the leg, but keeping the weight in the heel gives a certain quality, a capacity for the pelvis to have some space. Okay, now moving into our handstand prep. So you're going to walk the fingertips forward, step the back foot forward. You're standing on that right leg. Feel the fullness of your kidneys even before you go anywhere. And just with the ribs resting on the thigh, you should feel that really well. And then plant your palms into the floor. Okay. Now you don't have to even kick up here. You can just work on lifting the leg and lowering and keeping the fullness in the kidneys as you lift and lower. But if you want, and you want to kick up, be my guest. But when you kick up, keep that bottom leg, the one that's coming from the block, keep it out in front of you. Don't let it rise. It's going to help you stay connected to the energy of the back kidneys. You might fall. If you want to do this by a wall, you're welcome. Okay, just finding that kidney energy in the back of the ribs. And maybe you even find a moment to float or balance depending on your practice. And you'll just come back down, step the back foot back, step off the blocks. And you could even take your blocks, stack them as high as you need them to be to rest your forehead on them. Take another inhale and exhale. And then we'll come back up. Second side. Okay. Come all the way up to stand. Stand up on your blocks. Feet together. Feel how your feet relate to the blocks. Bend your knees, find Utkatasana. Let your back stay full. Let the arms be more forward initially as the weight evenly distributes as best as you're able across your feet. And then lift your arms up any amount without losing the fullness of the kidneys. Take another inhale, and then as you exhale, we're going to come all the way down to the floor. Take the arms underneath the shins. Okay, again, you can just stay in the prep here. And even if you're staying in the prep, can you lift up from those back bottom ribs? And if you are coming into the pose, can you lift up from those back bottom ribs to float into the balance? Take an inhalation, exhalation. Listen carefully. Left foot goes back onto the block. The right leg goes back and up. And if you don't get the heel on, see if you can just adjust so you get that heel on the block. And you're just going to tap the right toes down, let the tailbone drop, let the back round, and then lift the right leg up, send the chest forward. Do that again. Tap the toes down, let the tailbone drop, let the weight drop into the front heel, and then lift that right leg back up. Okay? This time as you tap down, tailbone down, step your foot back, take your hands to the blocks. Okay, line up the back arch with the front heel or so, or it could be wider. And then reach your right arm up, drive through your left heel to come all the way up to stand. Bend your back knee and reach back away from your front leg as you come to the heel of that front foot. Spread the toes, driving down through that heel. And then bend your left knee and take the left arm inside of the left leg and stretch the right arm overhead like Parsva Konasana. Do that again. Reaching away from your front leg. Back knee bends. Bend your front knee. Reach your right arm over your ear. One more time. Reach away. Reach your right arm overhead like Parsva Konasana. And then you can take your right hand down to the block. Okay? And again, use your hand on the block for support. If you need to use your hand to lift your foot off the block, that's fine. The right hand is coming to the outer edge of the mat, and then we're lifting the left foot off. Maybe you use your hand to help you with that on the block. Maybe you do that from your
own abdominal strength. Lift your left leg to float over your right leg, or support yourself with the left foot in front of you for the modification. Okay, next step, step the left foot back, right foot back, and I'm realizing I have that block in my way. Sit down. Okay, and then again, we're gonna lift up like into tabletop and come back out the way we came in. So push through your feet, reach your left arm up, full in the kidneys. Keep the right arm pressing into the floor and attempt to turn the right hand to the right as you float your left leg over your right, and then step your left foot onto the block. Lower your back knee. Let your front heel drive into the block as you send your pelvis forward. Okay, and then take your hands forward, walk the fingertips forward, step the back foot in a little bit. Keep that fullness in the kidneys. So feel how that transcends into the body by letting the ribs rest on the left thigh. Keeping that fullness, then walk your hands forward, lift your right leg, and try to kick or just lift and lower the right leg from the ground to the standing splits. Okay, a couple tries. Try to lead from the inner thigh of the right leg to kick up, and keep the left leg in front of you. Maybe to find a moment of balance, maybe you take yourself to the wall, okay? When you finish, step your right foot back, left foot back. Take your block any height, folding into your legs. Breathe, breathe. Okay, and then set your blocks aside. Come on down to sit. So most of what we've done today is really around a sense of forward bending. So we have to create flexion in the spine to create the sense of strength. It's like a capsular strength surrounding the midsection. And that capsular strength is coming from in some part from the sense of flexing the spine. It's not a huge flexion like cat, okay? But it is a flexion, especially at this place of where the rib cage meets the lumbar. Okay, so now we're just gonna take a simple back bend. Think of it more like a counter pose than taking yourself into your most aggressive, not that you ever want to be aggressive in anything, but your biggest back bend. You don't want to necessarily go there right after this very full practice of being awake and alive in the back body. So you'll come onto your back. And for some of you, it might just be that your back bend is rocking the pelvis. So you're gonna pull the feet, let the tailbone drop down toward the floor, let that undulate up through the spine. You might even take your arms and give a little support to let your chest open here as you pull your heels toward your sitting bones to rock your pelvis forward. And then to go the other way, you just send your tailbone up by pushing the feet away from the pelvis and letting that travel through the spine. Do that a couple times. If you want to take it to something a little more active, you'll take your hands down by your sides, press your feet into the floor, press your heels down, and then lift your hips up. Press through your heels, lift your hips up. Walk your shoulders underneath you. Just let your palms be open. You could have a belt, you could hold the sides of your mat. I'm gonna recommend you don't clasp your hands here just so you leave a lot of space for your shoulder girdle. And then just let your breath move into the front of your body, supporting from the heels, rooting well, so supporting from the back line of the body, which is actively condensing and making space for the front to open. Much like in most of the other parts of class, we were condensing the front body and making space for the back body to let the back body expand and open. Okay, relax the pelvis down. Feel free to take another one of those. I'm just going to move into more of an active rest position with the knees together. The arms can drape over the body. I'm going to show that and stop talking because it will muffle my mic. And then at some point, switch the arm that's on top. And then reach your arms up, let them rest at your sides. Maybe let your head rock gently from side to side. And then I'm just going to say, make yourself as comfortable as possible. And that might just mean that you lie on your back as you are. It might mean that you put a blanket under your knees, or you set something up under your back to support you in like along the spine for like Supta Baddha Konasana, or just supporting the spine in that way. So just get really comfortable. I'm going to take us into Shavasana, and as you're streaming this video, you can just pause and take as long a Shavasana as you like. I recommend at least 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can move about your day, or if you'd like, you can go to the pranayama section and continue with that. So as you rest in Shavasana, just allow yourself to deeply and fully surrender to the earth. Deeply and fully allow the back of your body to be supported. And we don't have to be so inquisitive about how the back body is meeting the earth, but we just invite our whole self, both sides of our back, and our whole self in the front, both sides of our front, to settle into the back, and the back to settle into the floor in a way that is not aggressive, not judgmental, that allows the mind's fluctuations to slow down so that we can abide even for a moment in our own true nature. The sense of ease and natural dignity and balance and joy and pain that is our human condition. And just let yourself rest as long as you need to, and the video will end. And again, you can continue with pranayama or move about your day. I wish you a wonderful rest of your time in this day that we come together in this virtual space. I wish you a continuation of all that you gather here in this space with your body and your mind and your breath. I wish you a continuation of that work, that discovery, that process in everything that you do, in all of your relationships, ways that you manifest yourself in the world.